בוקר טוב צריך. נועם, סידרו לנו את נועם. כן. יוצא מן הכלל. אתה מכיר את ה...
Okay, I will be your guiding here in the museum. Let's get inside. First, welcome to the Armored Core Museum. The Armored Core Museum has three main subjects. I'll explain about the subjects first, then we'll start to talk about the tanks here. First, our museum is dealing with three main subjects. The first subject, and the most important one, is the memorial of the fallen soldiers. On my left, you can notice the wall of names. On the wall of names, you can find all the names of the fallen soldiers. Unfortunately, now on the wall, we have 5,105 names from the Independence War until the war that goes on now. The last plate that we have on the wall is the most recent plate. Unfortunately, recently we updated the wall of names with 80 new names from the war that goes on now. Let's hope the number we have today will be the last and won't extend the wall of names more, because as you can see, we don't have more room for more soldiers. We'll get to the wall of names later as well. Now, the second subject we are talking about here is the history of our site. I want to tell you a story. Okay, in 1937, came to Israel a very huge guy in the British Army. This guy's name is Charles Tigard. Charles Tigard came to Israel, and his job was to build 62 fortresses from Gaza to North Israel. Those fortresses' job was to be a British police station. One of them he's built here in Latrun. This is the Tigard Fortress. The Tigard Fortress here has been built from 1942 to 1944. As I said, it was a British police station. Now, why he has built the fortress right here in Latrun? First, we are right in the middle of Israel, 30 minutes from Tel Aviv, 30 minutes from Jerusalem. Now, right down this mountain was the only road to Jerusalem those days, which means, as you can see, we have a huge view. Look behind you. We have a huge view. We are in a huge mountain, and I have all the area that I'm seeing, and I have the road to Jerusalem. And if I have the road to Jerusalem, I have the city itself, because I can choose who goes in, who goes out from the city. On our right, okay, there is a huge water lake. This was the water lake to Jerusalem. That's how the water goes to Jerusalem. So I have the power on the water as well. In 1947, the Jordanian army came here and took over the fortress. They took it over because of its importance to Israel. There were 5 battles here for Latrun against the Jordanian army. Only in 1967, in the 6 Days War, we managed to take over Latrun. Okay, all the 5 battles, we've lost all of them. And we like to say here that we caught Latrun in 20 years and 20 minutes. 20 years from the first battle to the last battle, and 20 minutes, which was the last battle here. Now, the last subject we are talking about is armored combat vehicles. In our museum, we have 160 armored combat vehicles that we have separated for 3 main groups. The first one is the one you see around us. This is armored combat vehicles that have been used right here in Israel. Behind the wall of names, you can find 2 more groups. The first one is armored combat vehicles that we have been took from countries that has been fought against us during wars. The second one is armored combat vehicles that we have took from all around the world just for the museum. All right, now let's get inside here and let's start to talk about tanks. So, this is the only way in the museum to see how our tank look from inside. Soon I'll explain what is this tank and what's his name and everything, but first I want to explain what is a tank. Okay? You can see that the tank has two parts. Here is the lower part and the upper part. The lower part of the tank is the hull. The hull is the body of the tank. The upper part is the turret. The turret is the head. Now the turret of the tank can move. The turret of the tank can move 360. It can spin 360. Now, the tank has three main advantages. The first one, it's his mobility. Now, I want to ask you a question. How much do you think this tank weighs?
60 tons.
60 tons. More. 100 tons.
20 to 60 pounds.
20 to 60. So, the tank here weighs 49 tons. 49 tons, it's eight and a half, between 8.5 or 9 elephants. This is the weight of one tank. So, as you can see, the tanks are using those trucks. They are not using some tires. Why are we using some trucks? As I said, the weight is huge. When we put those trucks, it takes the weight and it gets separated for a big place, and it's easier for the tank to move from one place to other. Also, the tanks are dealing much better against things we have on our way, like rocks, mountains, lakes, and things like this. Now, let's get inside the tank. One more huge advantage of a tank, it's his firepower. You can see the cannon here. The cannon here is 105 millimeters. With the cannon, we have 3 machine guns. You can notice the first one up there. The second one is up here. The third one is on the turret. We can't see it right now. But it's right here. We have like a small circle here. This is where the second machine gun is.
Third.
The third, sorry. Now, I want to explain what is this tank. This tank is an American tank. In Hebrew, we call him magach. In Hebrew, we call him magach. In English, it's peton. Okay, it's an American tank that served here for 50 years, from 1964 to 2014. Those type of tanks served in the Israeli Armored Corps. Now, in this tank, we have one thing that is an Israeli invention. You can see those plates. The tank has been covered with a lot of plates. This is the third advantage, his shield and protection. Those plates are an Israeli invention for the tank. Okay, inside those plates we have explosives. Those explosives' job is to deflect the explosion of a missile away. I'll explain how it works. When an anti-tank missile goes to the tank, it will hit on those plates. The explosives inside explodes outside of them. Its job is to make the explosion be here and not inside the tank and harm the crew members. It creates the explosion here because it tries to deflect it, because the explosives inside explodes on the missile and not inside. Did you understand how those plates work?
Yeah.
And this is an Israeli invention. After some countries realized how those plates work, they stole the ideas from us.
Go back to sender, misfire, malfire, backfire.
Now, the tank had 4 crew members. The first one we are about to talk about is the one who sits here. His head is here. Okay. So this is the driver. The driver's job is to drive the tank. Obviously, he's the only guy that sits at the lower part, the hull. Okay. He sees from those 3 mirrors. Okay. Those mirrors are named episcopes. It's basically 4 mirrors. He has 2 up and 2 down, and sometimes 1 between them. That's how he sees outside. Okay. This is about the driver. Now, the one who stands here. This is the loader. Okay, the loader's job is to load all the shells. The tank here have 54 shells. Every shell weighs about 20 to 30 kilos. Depends which shell he uses. He loads everything to the cannon block. You see this huge block here? This is where he actually loads all his shells. Imagine that all the shells are on the floor. He needs to lift them up from the ground to his shoulder, and then he needs to load it. And he needs to do it in couple seconds. He needs to do it fast. Okay? You know, one of the trainings of the loader is to load 40 shells in 2 minutes. In 1.5 or 2 minutes. He needs to do load. He just take it out and push again, take it out, push again. Now, this is about the loader. You see the guy who sits here? The guy who sits here is the gunner. The gunner's job is to control the cannon. He's the one who aims and shoots as well. He has a firing system, that's how he aims. And he has 2 joysticks. Those 2 joysticks, that's how you use the cannon. When you press both of them together, the tank shoots. One of my friends says when he pressed both of them together, the miracle happens. Now, behind him we have the commander of the tank. The commander of the tank is basically the most important job. He's the one who tells them what to do from loading to shooting. He's the one who takes responsibility on them. He's like their father inside the tank. He needs to make sure that everybody is doing their jobs inside. Now, you can see that his head is outside. The commanders need to stick their head outside because they have to be in full awareness for what's going on outside of their tank. They have to be in full awareness for what's going on up front, at the back, and on their sides. Okay?
So they take the most risk.
Yeah, unfortunately, if I remember correctly, at least the most soldiers that died from the Armor Corps are commanders that stick their head outside. Unfortunately, yeah. But always in Israel, you have to know, the commanders put themselves in risk before their soldiers. Everything,
Yes.
everything. Now you see those uniforms they wear. They doesn't really wear uniforms that I have. Those are special uniforms. Those uniforms are called nomics. Nomics is a special material and if the tank goes on fire, the uniforms will melt and the fire won't stick to their bodies. That's why you have those uniforms.
Can I say just something
Yeah.
here? No.
Yeah, sure.
The Meller Battalion, which is a 9206 that we began to, adopt, one of the things that they requested is if we could get them the special underwear, right? The special underwear that doesn't burn, because most of them don't have it. And so that's going to be one of our missions, amen? To provide those underwear. Yeah, they're reservists, all of them. Yeah.
Now you see those helmets? Those helmets are named Gentexes. The Gentexes are special helmets with earphones and a microphone. That's how they communicate inside. That's how they talk inside. Tank is a very, very noisy thing. You can't hear anything. Okay? You can see that that the commander and the gunner are very, very close to each other, but they won't hear anything without them. Also, they are protecting their head. Okay? It's not fun to stuck your head somewhere in the tank. I'll say I once stuck my head inside the tank. It's not fun. So that's why you have those Gentexes in the tank. Now, let's start to talk about the engine of the tank. The engine of the tank is at the back. The engine is right here. And the engine of the tank is 750 horsepower. In the tank during war, the tankists doesn't really getting out. They learn how to live inside. Unfortunately, there are stories about, from the Yom Kippur, there are stories about weeks inside, and there are stories about months inside. And during your advanced training in the Israeli Armored Corps, you have like a week that we call it a war week. During this war week, you trained to be in a tank during war. You trained to do some toilet. Number two and one and number two.
But without the toilet inside.
Without the toilet.
No, they have to put it in plastic bags and
Yeah.
special ways.
And and they learn how to eat inside and how to sleep inside. They are doing everything inside. This is like their home. Okay, that's why the tankists, if you'll see crew members, they are very, very close to each other because they live each other all day long. They live each other inside. Most of the times, the commander is not like the commander. He's their friend. he's talking with them like a friend. Okay, because he's lived with them as well.
What kind of food supplies they will bring with them?
A lot of canned food.
Oh, canned food.
A lot of canned food. Yeah.
Do you have women tankers?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In October, it's a very, very new thing. If I remember correctly, it's 5 years in the army that there is women tankists. Also on October 7th, they rammed. After they ran out of shells, they started to ram some terrorists with their tanks.
They overturned the battle.
Yeah.
The women tankers overturned the battle. There were 3 of them. They overturned the battle on October 7th at the border, at the fence. Nobody sent them, and nobody sent them, and nobody told them what to do. And they just said, "We don't know what to do, but we're going to do it anyway. What shall we do? Just go over them." And they just went over them. They were very courageous. They fought for like 17 hours non-stop.
The tank here is named Centurion. Okay, the Centurion is a British tank. In Hebrew, we call him Shot. Okay, this tank also served here about 50 years. Okay, it left the Israeli Army Corps in the start of the 2000s. Now, those 2 tanks, the Patton and the Shot, are the two tanks that served here, the main 2 tanks that served here during the Yom Kippur War. Okay, those 2 tanks are the main tanks in the Yom Kippur War, but they had like a different places to fight. The Patton used to serve in Sinai. The Shot used to serve in the Golan Heights. I'll explain you why. Okay. Originally, the tracks of the Patton is made by rubber. Originally, in the Shot, it's made by metal. Okay, the 2 places that we fought those days was Sinai in Egypt and the Golan Heights against Syria. Sinai is a desert. When Israel put the metal tracks on the sand of Sinai, the metal has been getting wrecked. And it didn't deal too good against the sand. That's why we used some rubber. The rubber didn't get wrecked on it. Israel used some metal tracks in the Golan Heights, which is huge rocks, mountains. That's why you need a strong metal to deal with it. Throughout the history, Israel also made some changes. Here, as you can see, it's a rubber track. That's about the 2 tanks that served in the Yom Kippur War. Let's move to this one here. Now we've got to one of the most famous tanks in history. This is the Sherman. Okay, the Sherman is an American tank from the Second World War. Now in the Sherman, you can see we have 5 crew members. Where is the 5th crew member? You can see this guy here. Okay, this one here is sitting inside the tank, and his job is just to shoot this machine gun. That's the 5th member job. Okay. Now I want to tell you a story from the 6 Days War. Okay. In 1967, the main battle that Israel had, the main success battle that Israel had, was to take over the old city of Jerusalem from Jordan. Now, in all of Israel, everybody says that the parachute unit did it, and not the parachute unit did it. In this battle was 1 Sherman tank. This Sherman tank has been led by a commander that his name was Itzik Zisman. Itzik Zisman was a tank commander in the 6 Days War, and his job was to lead the parachuters all the way to Jerusalem. He led them all the way. He got inside the old city of Jerusalem. He got inside the Lion's Gate, and then he got stuck. He got stuck because of this was a tight gate and it's a huge tank. Imagine he got stuck.
Narrow is the gate of the Lion's Gate.
He got inside. The parachuters are behind him, so they started to crawl underneath and climb from the sides. That's how they got inside. And the rest is history. after the war, Israel has sold those tanks to Uganda. Okay, after, if you know, it has been sold to Idi Amin.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's a bad
yeah,
news.
yeah. So, after some years, he got to a very, very rich guy that has a collection of tanks. He's collecting tanks. That's what he likes to do, collect tanks from all around the world. In 2020, the museum found this tank in his place, and they made like a little trade with him to bring this tank back to Israel.
So it was a Ugandan rich guy?
No, it was a British guy.
A British guy?
Yeah. And we did a trade with him. We gave him a type of tank that what he really, really wanted that we had in the museum. And we got this Sherman back. At the day this Sherman got to our museum, his commander during the battle, do you remember his name? It's this man. At the day this tank got to our museum, this man died at the very same day.
I served like 13 years as intelligence commander, intelligence officer in armored brigade in the IDF in the reserve.
Which Khativa was that?
It is it connected with what Noam said, because my brigade fought in 67. This is the brigade called Harel Brigade,
Yeah.
attacking Jerusalem from the north.
That's
coming.
the one that won the war to get
This is
Jerusalem.
one. Later on, it has another number, but it remained the original Harel Brigade.
Yeah.
I want to tell you something about this tank. This was the main battle tank of the American forces in the Second World War. And the soldiers that used it gave it a nickname. They called it Bronson. Why Bronson?
Because
What is the Bronson? The very famous Bronson thing?
he's Charles Bronson.
No, not Charles Bronson. In America, they had lighter. And when they advertise, they say it light in the first click. Bronson. And what happened in the Second World War, when the Germans hit those tanks, the first hit, the tank would go in flames.
Oh no!
So the soldiers call it Bronson because it light in the first click.
Oy vey.
Yeah,
was a
really, this is
dangerous
the real
tank.
story.
You can see we had some type of settlement during the history. You see the tank here. This is the AMX-13. Okay, the AMX-13 is a French tank that he has only 3 crew members. The 3 crew members are commander, gunner, driver. The loader here is an automatic loader.
An automatic loader.
Yeah. Now, you can see he only weighs 14.5 tons.
Wow. Very light.
Yeah. For a tank, that's nothing.
No.
The first one was 50. Here's 14.5. Now,
What's the advantages of the tank being lighter?
that's what I wanted to talk about. You can see that the engine is up front and not at the back. The engine is up front because this tank is supposed to be tank that goes off airplanes. He has a parachute. That's how France planned them. Yeah, what did it?
That's amazing.
The engine is up front because its job to make sure that the tank would be balanced in air and then properly. If the engine would be at the back, whoop, it will flip away. Imagine being inside, if you are a crew member and being inside and you getting parachuted, or looking at the sky and you see some tanks just fall off the sky.
That's scary.
But he has some huge disadvantage. I want to show you something. I want you to hear this. It's very tiny metal. Okay, this is his protection. That's why he was very, very bad for those days, because this tank wasn't protected enough for the soldiers inside. And this tank is not for battle. This tank is for patrolling. He's the fastest tank in history. Can get to about 90 kilometers per hour.
Wow!
Yeah, but he has one huge advantage. You can see that the Sherman here has the same cannon. The cannon of those tanks was one of the best cannons those days. So Israel took the cannons and put them on other tanks because this cannon was one of the best. Now, let's get back to the Sherman. So, how the Sherman got to us? This is a story, because now we've got to the Independence War. Now we've been at the 6 Days War. The IMX also served in the Sinai War. Now we've got to 1948. Okay, to the tanks we had first. The Sherman. The Sherman is the Sherman served the British Army here in Israel with the chromos that I have on our left, and we'll talk about this one as well.
The Sherman is a British or an American?
It was an American,
That's what
but
I
that
thought.
served for the British here.
Okay.
Now, how the Shermans got to us? In 1948, few months before they left, they realized bringing them back to UK, it's very, very expensive for them. So they decided to stay them here. But if they stay them here, anybody can take them. There is an Independence War for the Jews. They can take the tank and just use them. So they took them and destroyed them. Okay? Even some of the tanks, they took them to one cliff at the north and just and they took them and they took the cliff and they dropped them off them. They didn't want anybody to use them after them, sorry. So Israel took some of them and fixed them.
Fix them, of course.
That's how some of them got to us in the Independence War. Okay? This is about the story of how the Shermans got to us.